something, whatever it might be, that you're like, I know this isn't going to help my future brain health, but I do it anyways?
Well, I'm a lot older than you, so I've had to tighten up quite a bit.
Really?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think you asked me last time if I could have my 30-year-old self inform me, what would I think the answer was stay out of the sun as much as I did and floss my teeth more often. But having said that, what are my biggest challenges, I think?
Yeah.
And I don't really labor over sweets. I think I could drink less. I think that, I've been saying 1 to 2 glasses of wine a day, and I might have more. And I have to admit that I should be more probably disciplined in that regard, but I don't mind how I feel. And so,
but there's a lot of negative effects with alcohol to the brain, right?
There are.
There's no benefit to brain health with...
There's no benefit to brain health chemically. But as my son pointed out on a podcast to me, he said, there may be a benefit to the socialization that then happens when you're with people and you have that third glass of wine, which I'm guilty of.
Sure.
But
it doesn't help mitochondria.
It doesn't help mitochondria. No, it doesn't.
And so you have to kind of do everything else to, I guess, benefit the mitochondria and kind of minimize that potential risk, right?
Yeah. And I would say that on occasion I stay up too late. When I get to a place of being deeply involved in research, I can't turn it off.
Yeah, it's hard.
I cannot turn it off. And I know I should go to bed, and my wife tells me I need to go to bed because she is, remember you just said this on a podcast.
yeah, it's like...
I know, but sometimes I'm so close to discovering something and pulling things in, I just can't lose the thread.
What are the negative side effects to brain health and to the mitochondria or to metabolism when you get 5 to 6 hours of sleep versus 7 to 8 hours of sleep? Is there a big difference to brain health?
Well, I think that tends to generalize. We do know that there are some individuals who are able to sleep 5 to 6 hours and do quite well. And again, there's no magic of the 8 hours. We know that Alzheimer's risk is increased in people who have shorter duration of sleep and who have longer duration of sleep as well. That once we get north of 9 hours of sleep, Alzheimer's risk goes back up. So it's a bit of a U-shaped curve. But I think that, what the data, what Matthew Walker has talked about in his really wonderful book, Why We Sleep, is there are a variety of issues. I mean, one thing that we see when we don't sleep enough that I think is really fundamental is that inflammatory chemicals, cytokines, seem to increase. The very next morning, we've lit up the amygdala, the impulsive, fear-mongering part of the brain, the child in the room, the poor decision maker, and as such, our decision making is threatened dramatically.
Wow.
Such that when you look at the type of food choices a person will make when he or she is deprived of sleep for a night, it's dramatic. The caloric consumption that happens and the quality of the food that people will consume, and even other measurements of decision-making quality in studies, which are correlated, interestingly, with functional MRI evaluation of the activity of their brain's amygdala, the fear center, the poor decision maker. So that's something people don't really talk about. I mean, what people are really talking about these days is the activation in the brain, and this is important, I don't mean to minimize it, of basically the ability of the brain to clear itself out. The brain has a lymphatic system as well called the glymphatic system, and it's during sleep, during deep sleep, that our brains are able to rid themselves of accumulated things that happen during the course of the day or through our exposure. So that's certainly very important. So, the other thing that happens, I think that's really very relevant, gets back to dead center to our conversation, is with repeated lack of restorative sleep, it's a powerful threat to metabolism and mitochondrial function.
Interesting. Gotcha.
And this then
causes obesity, inflammation.
And directly threatens the mitochondria, and therefore allows us to understand why people who chronically don't get enough quality sleep, i.e. length and quality are important,